the Leadership Burbank YouTube channel. Without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Narissa Sugars. Narissa, if you can unmute.
I'm the one that was lecturing everyone to make sure to unmute, and ironically, I would be the one to not unmute. So thank you, Albert, for that introduction, and thank you, candidates, for joining us tonight. This is really exciting. It's the first time for Leadership Burbank, the first time in a while anyway, so we are very honored to have you all be a part of this. I'm going to review the rules for tonight's forum. You've seen this, you received these in advance, but I'm going to review them for you as well as the people who are joining us on Facebook Live. Each candidate will open with a 1-minute opening statement. The order in which they speak is the order in which the candidates appear on the official City of Burbank election ballot. That's for the 1-minute opening statement. For each of the 3 primary questions, candidates have been assigned a number 1 to 8 to determine the order in which they will be introduced and speak. Those number assignments took place during a random drawing prior to the forum start. Each candidate for those questions will have 2 minutes to respond to, again, each of those first 3 questions. Question 4 is going to be a lightning round with only 1 minute to answer. There will be 4 questions with 2 candidates answering the same question during their individual times. After the lightning round is over, candidates will have a 1-minute closing statement based on a question we pose to all of you. It will be the same question for everyone, and the order of speakers again will follow the order of your positions on the official City of Burbank official election ballot. Candidates should not address one another directly, and time limits will be strictly enforced throughout the forum. You'll see our electronic timer. Make sure that everyone sees that. If for some reason you don't, let us know now. That tells you how much time you have left for each response. Also, we have Jamie Keyser with signs that will tell you when you have a minute, 30 seconds, 15 seconds left, and then again, when to stop. Thank you for your cooperation on keeping to time, and let's get started. Let's begin with our 1-minute opening statements. We begin tonight with Linda Besson. Ms. Besson.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with Leadership Burbank, and I appreciate that Albert reminded everyone of your mission statement, which is developing leaders to support new ideas and solutions to keep Burbank strong and vibrant. That's something very important to me because we need new ideas and new solutions. So imagine a Burbank where we invest in our neighborhoods and develop small local businesses to help those neighborhoods thrive and allow everyone to invest in Burbank. Imagine a Burbank where we have a public transportation system that is economical, convenient, electric, and allows residents to enjoy everything that Burbank has to offer. Imagine a Burbank that has a public portal with data and information involving public safety, infrastructure, business licenses, permits that allows everyone to access that data and information. And imagine that as an app on your phone. Imagine a Burbank that promotes diversity through action, events, and programs, and not just talks about it. So Burbank benefits everyone. That's the kind of Burbank I imagine, and that's the kind of Burbank I would work toward on City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Besson. Next up, we have Mr. Constantine Anthony. Mr. Anthony.
Hi, thank you so much for putting this together. I really appreciate Leadership Burbank doing this. You know, as a graduate from the 2018 class, it held a special place in my heart. I had to leave college when I was younger to take care of my ailing grandfather, so I never got to finish school. So for me, graduating Leadership Burbank is a feather in my cap, and it really means a lot to me. In fact, I was put on Leadership Burbank through the scholarship program. You know, I come from a working class background, and I had a hard time raising the funds to get into the program. And you know, I just want to pay that forward. I think Leadership Burbank has trained me to really reach out to the community and help others get lifted up. I'm running on a platform of housing justice, which includes building more affordable housing. I'm running on a platform of environmentalism, which is, you know, I want to make 100% clean energy by the end of the decade, and community support, including, you know, helping fund our local school district.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anthony. Next, we have Ms. Tamala Takahashi. Ms. Takahashi. Thank you. Thank you, Leadership Burbank, for hosting this panel tonight. I'm a pleasure to be here. I've lived in Burbank for 21 years. We raised our 3 kids here. Our youngest is 16 and she's a senior at Burroughs High School. I'm deeply committed to our community. I am on the Infrastructure Oversight Board City Commission, Magnolia Park Merchants Association Board, the Friends of the Library Board, among others. To me, Burbank is a gem of the valley. We are a tight-knit community here, and viewers, if we don't know each other already, I can almost guarantee that we have a mutual friend somewhere in Burbank. But we are facing many challenges: budget, small businesses, housing, and of course, our health and safety during this time while we move to reopen and recover from COVID. I'm running to give back to our community that has given us so much, and offering my experience in the city and my nonprofit background, my adaptability and collaborative style to address these challenges on council. Thank you, Ms. Takahashi. Next, we have Michael Lee Gogan. Mr. Gogan.
Thank you so much for the invitation from the leadership program. God, 25 years, it seems like it just went by so quickly. But you know what? The city is standing strong in many ways. For example, there are a lot of issues that have come up that may not be as strong an issue as everybody else thinks. For example, we do have a police department that is so well put together, it crosses over into other communities. I have to say I'm the one and only candidate that has been very insistent on not defunding any of what they do. They're doing fantastic. Number 2, I also think that we should be preserving the way the city looks, because many people, I've spoken to over 1,000 residents here in Burbank, would like to keep Burbank a certain way without having too many 2-story buildings. Like, who wants a building 2 stories built next to their nice single family dwelling? Maybe you'll lose a little sunshine, right?
Thank you, Mr. Gogan. Next, we have Paul Herman. Mr. Herman.
Thank you for hosting this event. Thank you to Leadership Burbank for hosting this event. And contrary to published reports, there's actually more than one candidate that's graduated from Leadership Burbank's program. I'm proud to say I'm an alum of the Leadership Burbank class of 2015. I owe a lot to Leadership Burbank, and it's a major reason why I'm here today running for Burbank City Council. Upon completion of the program, I set myself 3 goals. 1, to join a civic board or commission. 2, to join the board of a nonprofit. 3, to join the board of a local service club. Within 6 months of graduation, I had achieved all 3 goals by joining the boards of Burbank Water and Power, Burbank Noon Rotary, and what I'm truly most passionate about, the Boys and Girls Club here in Burbank. A little bit about myself. I'm a 13-year resident of Burbank. My wife, Amy, and I have 2 kids. Our daughter, Agnes, is an 8th grader at Jordan Middle School. Our son, Dean, is a 4th grader at McKinley. I'm also a small business owner here in the city. And I'm running for Burbank City Council for 4 reasons. 1, to help manage our city through this economic crisis caused by COVID-19.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Next, we have Nick Schultz. Mr. Schultz.
Well, thank you to Leadership Burbank for having me tonight. My name is Nick Schultz, and I'm running for Burbank City Council. I'll be number 6 on the ballot you should all be receiving this week. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I grew up in a small town in Oregon about the same size as Burbank. I was raised by a single mother, and my brother and I didn't have much, although we had a great mother and some amazing grandparents, and we worked really, really hard. And I was the first person to be fortunate enough in my family to go to college, to graduate from college, and then to go to law school and graduate from there. And I remember reflecting on that experience, and I decided that I wanted to dedicate my life to public service. And I've been, again, very fortunate to be able to do that. I currently work as a Deputy Attorney General for the state of California, where I combat human trafficking and public corruption on behalf of all of you. And I've been reflecting on this journey again, and I know that a lot of Burbank residents right now are hurting with issues of housing and job instability. And these are issues that I know well personally. I think it's important we have someone at City Hall who understands that perspective and offers bold new solutions, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Next, we have Charisse Manukian. Ms. Manukian.
Hello, everybody. I want to echo the thanks to Leadership Burbank for hosting this forum. My name is Charisse Manukian, and I'm running for City Council this November. I have 2 motivations for running. The first is, I began working as a substitute teacher at our city schools last year, and this gave me a really good look at Burbank's future. And I'm proud to report that our future is incredibly bright. But, this experience also opened my eyes to a lot of the issues that both our students and our residents face. They have to deal with, a lack of affordable housing, accessibility to public transportation, and a lack of school funding. I thought the best way that I could affect change would be by running for local office and implementing policies. And the second reason is, I want to inspire the already empowered youth in Burbank. I'm young. I know that sometimes the youth don't get involved and they don't vote, but I want to change that. I want them to, come and have their voices be heard. And I hope that, they all become leaders in our community eventually. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manukian. Finally, we'll hear from Tim Murphy. Mr. Murphy.
Good afternoon. Thanks for hosting us. My background as an attorney, I was 15 years in the public defender's office, last 10 years as a top step trial attorney, mental health as well as criminal law. And then I was appointed by the Superior Court to be a Superior Court commissioner for 15 years, additional time in criminal law, mental health, and basically after those two areas, they thought I was qualified to do family law for an additional 8 years. Have my own practice now locally. And I was on the city council from 1989 to 1992. I was reappointed in May of 18 to take the place of our beloved Mayor Rogers. And I've been working on every issue. People say that I'm a good listener and incredibly responsive, and I'll continue to do that work if reelected. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Terry will now introduce the first of the three primary questions. Terry.
Thank you, Narissa. And good evening, everyone. Welcome. So the first question for the evening is going to be around homelessness. So I'd like to start with Linda Basson. Describe what the city of Burbank is doing to address the evolving homeless crises, and what do you believe is already working, and what do you propose to do?
I'm very supportive of the program that they have currently in downtown Burbank, the MET program, where they have a mental health team go out and speak with people who are in crisis. I think we should expand that. I think it shouldn't be just limited to downtown Burbank. But we also have a lot of reasons for homelessness that also need to be addressed. Domestic violence, the economic crisis, drug addiction, veterans who are not getting support. All of these things contribute to this problem. And I think the main thing we have to remember is to not criminalize homelessness, but to understand these are people who are in crisis and to afford them whatever resources we can to help them. So that is something I would like to expand. I think we can put more city resources toward it. I think the program we have is successful. I think we do have a plan in place that is working for the most part, but we need to expand it, especially in this age of COVID. We need to be more concerned about people who are in economic crisis as well, because a lot of time is spent on mental health crisis because these are the people who take our attention. These are the people who become visible, but there's a lot of invisible people who are in economic crisis. So I think we need to be much more aggressive about that. I know that we have been looking at renter relief and so on, but what about people who are already evicted prior to this? They won't be able to find homes soon either. So I think we need a multifaceted approach. We need to really look at and get a grip on what is happening in our community. I know that some people are concerned about people coming into our community from other communities, but we need to help everyone who is here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Besson. Tamala Takahashi.
Thank you. Excellent question. So I was on the initial homelessness task force that was put together, I believe, back in 15 or 16, that the city put together. And I'm very happy to see some major progress that we've made in the city since then. And as has been mentioned before, the MET team, the mental health evaluation team, the Street Plus team, those have been successful in our city already. And this year alone, we have helped place 20 homeless, unhoused individuals, and they're still working in the city to do so. We have wonderful partnerships with organizations such as Family Promise, BTAC, Burbank Housing Corporation, LASA, to name just a few. I encourage, in order to increase our addressing the homelessness issue in Burbank and unhoused population, I support our plan to create a storage facility that was in the task force plan, to create a storage facility for our unhoused to have a place to put their belongings so that they can keep them safe. I also support the purchase of a local motel that's potentially in the works as not just a homeless shelter, but as a facility with 360-degree wraparound services to help them from point A to point B all the way through their needs. I also support increased assistance for women, children, and foster youth specifically. And as a city council member, my hope is to put more pressure on the county to be able to access the Measure H funds that we put so much money into in our city, but we do not get as much back. And I would like to see more Measure H funds in our city returned to us. And lastly, and most importantly, one of the things that I've brought up many times on the task force is the importance of education in the community. Many of our community members do not know what's available for our unhoused people, and it's really important for our community to understand so that we can help people before they become homeless in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Takahashi. Nick Schultz, please.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Look, this is a very important question. I mean, we have over 50,000 homeless in Los Angeles County alone. And when we look at that number, we have to recognize that we're dealing with an immense humanitarian crisis right here in our own backyard. So look, there's a lot of things that the city has done very, very well. And I would just echo what Ms. Besson and Ms. Takahashi said. I agree with what they said wholeheartedly. But I do think we need to be reimagining what can be done. So look, adding housing for the homeless with wraparound supportive services is going to be the centerpiece to solving this issue. But I also think that we have to talk about, and before I go on, I'll mention the expanded use of the mental health evaluation team. Couldn't agree more. Definitely a good idea. Now, there's no one cause for homelessness, but the lack of affordable housing options is certainly a factor in that. So we need to get really creative and proactive about adding affordable housing options in our city. And I think that there's a really clear way to do that. We've long been looking at the Golden State District. And for those who are watching and don't know where that is, I'm talking about the area where the old Lockheed facilities used to be near the airport. Now, what I could envision is a lot of mixed use development in that area where we have new ground floor space for businesses and new parks, new neighborhoods, and new opportunities to add housing. I think that if we do that, we can do it in a way that preserves the historic nature and the aesthetic qualities of the neighborhoods that we love so much, but we can also find a bed for every head that's already living and working, and in some cases on the streets right here in our town. This is a problem that we have to get very serious about. Again, I think that the city council has done some things very well, but this is an issue that's going to require more and more focus and attention as we go forward. This is a problem that seems to be getting worse, not better. And the important thing is that we roll up our sleeves and we work with our existing nonprofit partnerships. We use those to the best that we possibly can. And we seriously explore the site for a homeless shelter in the city of Burbank.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Paul Herman.
Thanks, Terry, and thanks for the question. Homelessness is such a dire problem that we have, not just here in Burbank, but throughout LA County and Southern California, to be honest with you, throughout the entire state. It's definitely a regional problem. And I think for too long, Burbank has kind of marginalized homelessness, kind of trying to push it to the fringes and keep it out of Burbank. I'm glad that Burbank, our current city council, is trying to take advantage of the Home Key program that the state is offering that will allow the city to hopefully purchase a motel, the Scott Motel on San Fernando Road, and convert that into interim and long-term housing for homeless here in our city. It's not the solution, but it's a good start. It is definitely a band-aid to a big problem that we have here. But utilizing those funds is a smart thing to do. The cost of the program is approximately $4.9 million. The state the grant program is hopefully going to offer us about $2.8 million. Hopefully we'll qualify for about over half of the cost of that. So that's great for our city. And the rest of the money we actually already have set aside in a housing budget item within our city finances. So the money's all allocated, it's all there, and we can pull the trigger on this fast. The Chamber of Commerce was able to endorse this grant program. I'm happy that as a public affairs chair and an executive committee member of the chamber, I was able to help push them to make that endorsement because, like I said, it's critical now that Burbank addresses its housing problems here in the city. And what that Home Key program will do at the Scott Motel will allow us to do is not just house people, but provide those wraparound services that some of my fellow candidates had mentioned, and to partner with our nonprofits here in the city that do such a fantastic job, like FSA, Family Promise, the Housing Corp, and BTEC. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Constantine Anthony.
This is an excellent question to start with. It is a big issue here in Burbank. Throughout this night, I'm going to be telling you some unique qualities that I have as a candidate that none of the other 7 candidates have. And the first one being that I used to be a homeless Burbanker. I lived in my car here on the streets of Burbank, and I interacted with the services or lack of services that we have here in the city. The Burbank Temporary Aid Center used to do a lot more than they do now. And in fact, they have cut their hours. They have reduced the number of days that you can get a hot meal and a hot shower. They used to take care of mail for our homeless citizens. I've talked to some of the guys living in McCambridge Park. They have photo IDs, born and raised in Burbank, and they're from here, and they don't have an address that they can get their ballot mailed to. And that is voter disenfranchisement. These are the folks who want to vote for a candidate like me who knows what homeless services require and what we need to do to help people, and yet they can't. And it's very disappointing. I'm excited that we are in talks to buy the Scott Motel, but that is from COVID relief funding that ends at the end of the year, December 31st, and we're out of that funding. So we need to lock in this hotel, and then we need to switch to getting Measure H funds to provide these wraparound services. But we don't have currently, and we've never had actually, a year-round emergency shelter in Burbank. We send everybody to go to North Hollywood at City of Hope or Essentia in Glendale. We say, go to somewhere else. Even you, the Burbankers who are born and raised here and living on our streets, please leave our city and go find help somewhere else. It's just not right. It's not the way we should do it. We need to have emergency services here in the city, and it needs to connect with the county services so we can get people lifting out of poverty.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Tim Murphy.
Thank you. Burbank actually is doing really well in the homeless services area. Burbank is probably the only city that you can name or know about that has actually reduced its homeless population this year. We started the year with 294 homeless individuals. We have placed 84 of those individuals at the last time I checked, it could be more by now, in the Room Key program. And we have, through a program called Street Beats, and a gentleman named Robert Newman, we have returned 19 or more people back to their families where they lived before they came here. He has helped them clean up, fix whatever disabilities are keeping them from going home, contacted the families, we buy them a bus ticket, we get them cleaned up and set of clothes, and somebody rides with them to make sure they get there. Their families don't even know they're here. We have an array of services from nonprofits. Essentia is taking the lead on terms of contacting the homeless people. We've got Family Promise, which does an amazing job of housing homeless families. We have the Burbank Housing Corporation, which assists Family Promise and others in terms of getting them off the street and getting them incredibly low rents until they can get on their feet. We've got BTAC, which I pointed out at a council meeting just a couple of months ago that has kind of dropped the ball. They're not doing what they should, but they still got more funding than I thought they should. We can do more, sure, but as a city councilman, I have to focus on Burbank's homeless population, and we're doing a really good job. We are winning at this point in time. It's a compassionate program, and we also have an abatement program. If we can't get them into services, We can clean up areas where they congregate and, you know, have a lot of belongings and things that just don't work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Sharice Manukian.
Thank you. I think homelessness is, of course, a complex issue that is going to require a lot of different solutions and a lot of people coming together to provide those solutions. I think with regards to what Burbank is doing currently, there are a lot more programs such as, the ones that my fellow candidates mentioned, BTAC, Family Services, the Room Key program, all of those programs are in place. And I think that, I would, of course, be in favor of continuing to fund those programs. And I think one of the candidates brought it up. Those are programs that, I myself didn't know about until I looked into it. So we do need to, put an emphasis on giving attention to these programs and letting people know that they exist and that they're there. The second thing that I want to address is, how are we going to continue to work on solving this homelessness issue? And I think that, the two things I do want to talk about is firstly, creating more affordable housing. Of course, the first thing you think of with regards to homelessness is that there isn't enough housing for these people. And the problem is that there isn't enough affordable housing. So I think that I would want to work to build that. And the second thing is another thing that, of course, the other candidates mentioned is, the potential purchase of the Scott Motel and kind of turning that into a homeless shelter, which Burbank doesn't currently have. And I think what I would want to see there would be, mental health specialists, therapists, and people who are there to, not only find housing for homeless people, but also to help the homeless people get back on their feet, because that is really what's going to, take them out of poverty. And I think the last thing, something that has not been brought up tonight yet, is about prevention. I don't think that we really think about how people become homeless. And if we work on, preventing people becoming homeless by supporting those who are domestically abused, supporting those who have drug addictions, I think that we can curb homelessness before it even begins. And that's something that I would like to see us do as well if elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manukian. And Michael Gogan.
This is a very emotionally driven question for me. I've worked with the homeless people in many different areas of Los Angeles or Southern California. When I first started living in Southern California, and I'm a native San Franciscan, so I know what homeless is all about. I adopted a program in a rental facility that I managed, and I took in homeless people off the street. And we had a trade-off. Some were not like some of the ones that we see today with mental illness that are driven. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink from the well. And I encourage these people that have a challenge to get enrolled in a program. At one time, we used to force it on them. And today, the laws are written in such a way that they have every right, if they feel like it, take on a sidewalk. It would be nice to have legislation that would change it back to where when someone has an illness, that they do get some preventative care. So what we did in our program was that we had responsible roles that we had to fulfill in order to stay inside at the facility that I managed. And everyone did their work. Everyone did well. From what I understand, our challenges here in Burbank are not very large at all, but we can harness some of it by having a training program to teach people the basics of getting back out into the world and to get a real job and not feel so down below. Encouragement, motivation. And I say this with all my heart, because there is no cure-all here, but we do have the least amount of problems compared to all the cities in the valley here. We have close to nil, and I love to say it's zero.
Thank you, Mr. Gogan. Narissa?
Thank you. All right, so tonight's second question deals with your leadership approach. You have 2 minutes to respond to this question. How are your leadership style and skills best suited to be part of Burbank City Council? We begin this round with Tim Murphy. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you. I combine a number of leadership skills, none of which are amazing. If there's a tough subject, I'm not afraid to speak up. If sometimes you lead by example, sometimes you wait and listen and add your support, or you help bring the discussion out. I'm thinking about the city council specifically. Each one of us leads on different subjects. It depends on your passion, your energy, and what else is going on. A lot of times if you bring up the item and get it on the agenda, they start with you, whether you like it or not. I think it's also important to be a team player, to be understanding and compassionate of others, and to let them, Biden was talking about it the other night, and I thought it was really well put by him. He was saying it's okay to attack someone's position, but don't attack their reason for the position. And remember, it's attack the issue, but not the person. We use that technique at the city council. We argue, we get angry with each other, but we always leave it on the field. And I think that that's really, really important. And I think leading by example is not valued as much as it should be. You can lead next week by going to a food bank and working, not telling anybody about it, just doing it, showing who you are and how much you love this city. You don't have to call attention to yourself like some people do. Just get the work done. Show that you love the city, show that you care, and get out there and volunteer. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Murphy. Next, we'll hear from Paul Herman. Mr. Herman.
Thank you, Narissa. So, one of the things I learned by going through the Leadership Burbank program is what type of leader I am. We had to do these, assessments and read a bunch of books. And one of the things I took away from it was that I'm somebody who needs to understand the history of the issue or of the organization. I need to contextualize it. I need to, basically take a holistic approach and understand from kind of soup to nuts how everything works and functions together. And I think that's really important when we're looking at the city of Burbank, because there's all these disparate entities and groups and organizations. But at the end of the day, there's also a synergy to it all, because we are all one community. And that's what's beautiful about Burbank. And that's why I really love this city. So I serve on, different boards and commissions. Burbank Water and Power has nothing to do with Boys and Girls Club, really, nothing to do with the Chamber of Commerce, but actually they do. They all kind of work together. Burbank Water and Power and the IBW really supports the Boys and Girls Club. We've had the GM from the BWP on our board, our advisory board for the Boys and Girls Club for the past, 20 some odd years. So it's fantastic. So, what I've taken away from as far as leadership, though, for me personally, and what I always feel on serving on all of these different boards and commissions is the biggest compliment is that I'm a good listener, and then I'm a collaborator. And to me, that's what's important, because we need to bring people together here in the city. And that's what I intend to do by building better bridges between all of the organizations and communities and peoples of our city. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Herman. Next, we'll hear from Nick Schultz. Mr. Schultz.
Thank you again for the question. I think it's an excellent one. Look, I go to work every day on behalf of the people of California. So I know what public service entails, and I commend each and every one of my fellow candidates who's already engaged in some form. In fact, I think you can say running for office itself can be a tricky job and is a form of public service. So thank you to everyone who's running. But I think it's also safe to say that we live in incredibly divisive times. It feels like our country is coming apart at the seams, and like the ability to find common ground is something that we're quickly losing the ability to do. The way I lead is this. I think one of the most undervalued qualities about anyone who leads is the ability to listen. We're all really good talkers and we share our ideas, but it's good to be able to sit down and to take feedback and to reevaluate your position. The ability to compromise and to even challenge your own beliefs, your own approach to things is not a sign of weakness. Compromise, I believe, is a sign of strength, and it's what we need more in this community and in this country together. I also believe that no one person has the answer. So the way that I like to lead as an attorney, the way that I would lead if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, is to bring more people to the table. I believe that diversity is a strength. I want to see increased diversification of our city staff, boards, and commissions, because with those different perspectives and coupling that with the ability to listen and to empower others to lead in our community, I believe that we can tackle any issue that we have. I think that, I bring good communication skills. I try to be solution focused in everything that I do. Like one of my fellow candidates said, tackling an issue comprehensively and looking at all of the sources of the problem and ensuring that a solution is long lasting is important to me. And I would just say this in summation. I believe that right now we need leaders in City Hall more than ever that will work with everybody and work across the aisle, so to speak, and be focused on one thing, and that is doing the best for Burbank. And that I'm prepared to do.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Next, we'll hear from Charisse Manoukian. Ms. Manoukian.
Thank you. Throughout my life and, my college career, I think I've held several leadership positions. And, the one takeaway from those positions has been, to echo some of my other candidates, has been that you need to listen, understand, and remain accessible to, the people that you are leading. And I think that that is exactly, the type of qualities that I want to take into the position if I'm elected. I think, there is not going to be one person who will have experienced every single thing that all the residents of Burbank experience. So you need to have empathy and you need to be able to, listen to residents, understand where they're coming from, and then work together to create solutions to those problems. I think the other thing that sometimes people tend to forget is, City Council is not just you, it's not just one person. There are 5 other people, well, including yourself, there are 5 people that you have to work with and, create solutions with those people. So I think, again, to echo what Mr. Schultz said, it's important to understand how to compromise, to set aside some of your personal beliefs and, work together to make progress. Because if everybody is just stuck to their beliefs, we're never going to progress as a society. So I think that, compromising is also something that's very important. And finally, to go back on the point of accessibility, I think that something that I've learned even throughout the campaign is that residents just want to be able to speak to you, to know that you are there to listen to their concerns and that you are going to address them at some point. And I think that that's something that, I would want to continue to do if elected. I want to remain accessible to the public, to the residents of Burbank. I want them to be able to approach City Council and me and, tell us what their issues are and work together to, come up with a solution, whether that's through policies, whether that's through a program that we can create or a program that's already in place. So that is how I would lead. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Manoukian. If you're just joining us, the question that we're posing to the candidates regards leadership approach. And the question is, how are your leadership style and skills best suited to be part of City Council? Right now, let's hear from Michael Gogan. Mr. Gogan.
Thank you for that question. Every time I go into a production of some kind, whether it's writing a song or writing a screenplay, there are many different angles that we take, and it's no different. All art form is about the same, even if we take it to canvas. So one of the issues that comes up with this whole idea of leadership is that it's very important to listen to all sides. And so far, we all have that ability, I can say right now, from looking at each of us as candidates. And what's unique about listening to all sides is that we don't jump into a conclusion, because we need to have respect for what is being said. And when all the different angles are spoken, then we get into a collaborative stage. And that's when we bring out probably the best parts of what we're trying to achieve. That is coming up with a solution. Because every time there's a problem, there is a solution. And we will come up with a solution as a team. And I think that's important. The other thing is, when I entered into this race, I didn't say, hey, I'm going to do this and that's final. What I said was, let me ask you, how would you like to see your city council represent you in your community? And everybody was totally surprised that I even asked that question. Well, the truth is, it's their community first. They're voting for us. They're instilling trust. So we need to deliver the goods on what they want in the community. And with that, we take some leadership and we create an avenue. And here's what I say. My door will always be open for listening and then implementing whatever is needed in the community.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Gogan. Let's hear now from Constantine Anthony. Mr. Anthony?
Leadership. Okay, well, this is Leadership Burbank. You know, I wanted to talk about a second thing that makes me unique in this race. I was born autistic, and I still am. But most people, they tell me that I don't seem like it. By all accounts, I should not be here running for office. In fact, if I do win this seat, I would be the first ever elected autistic person in the history of California. But for 20 years, I have been a professional improv comedian. I've performed at Comedy Sports and Second City and Groundlings, IO West, Upright Citizens Brigade. I spent the last 20 years of my professional life collaborating, using teamwork, developing relationships live on stage in front of people. And it builds an ability to communicate, an ability to create relationships and solve problems that I am so grateful for. It's gotten me to where I am today. You know, the first few sessions at Leadership Burbank, they give you the Gallup poll test, and they say, what are your strengths? And it's funny, in my group, everyone had strengths in different categories, and four of the five were all in relationship building. And I thought I'd done it wrong. I was so heavy in that relationship category, but it's a testament to who I am as a leader. None of my policies, you can go to my website and you can look at all my policies. None of those are my idea. I've talked to community members, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of Burbank voters, and I ask them, what do you want to see from a city council member? And that's what I've put on my website. So, relationship building.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Tamala Takahashi.
Great. Thank you for this question. This is a wonderful question, and it's the first time we've been asked it during any of these panels. I have learned my leadership style in the many years that I've been involved in nonprofits. I've been involved in nonprofits for over 10 years. And where I really learned more like overtly about leadership and how that works is through the Toastmasters program. And particularly the year that I was district director in 2014 and 15, I was district director of the Los Angeles, San Fernando Valley, and Santa Clarita Valley Toastmaster region. We had around 200 clubs and about 500 leaders we had to keep trained and informed during that year. And I learned some really important lessons during that time. One of the things I learned is that when you are speaking to an audience, or when you're managing a membership, or you're managing a leadership team, there's four things that every team and every group wants. Number one, they want to be engaged in what's going on. They want to be a part of it. So it's important for our residents to be engaged and a part of what's going on in our city. Secondly, they want to be able to follow along and understand. So it's clear that we communicate with our city. They also want to be respected and heard. Audiences, membership, anybody that is under a leader needs to be respected and heard. We need to do that for our residents. And lastly, they want to feel like they have some value out of their participation. So it's always important that we provide value for the people who are living in our city. I learned through this program to be a servant leader, do the work and do what's necessary in order to serve. And in order to do that, we need empathy and hope always. If we put attention, empathy, and hope in all that we're doing, and we put in the work, then we can make anything happen, and we can find solutions if we work together in collaboration. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Takahashi. Finally, for this leadership question, we're going to hear from Linda Besson. Ms. Besson.
Thank you, and this is a terrific question. I'm going to talk about the experiences I've had that have shaped me as a leader going back to the 1990s. I served on the board of a Burbank synagogue, and also, besides being a board member, was vice president. And that's a situation where you have a variety of personalities, a variety of priorities, a variety of situations to deal with. And you are always going to have a group that is not going to be happy with the ultimate decision. So that certainly is a great test of leadership, to hold everyone together, to herd the cats, as they say, and make sure that everything goes in the right direction, even if you do have some unhappy people. But for the most part, we tried to remain united and we worked together, and it was a terrific experience. My next experience as a leader was running a branch office for a medical malpractice insurance company. And that was an office I built myself. I started off as the only employee and built up staff and built it up as we gained clients. We worked hard. And what I also found was important was to be an inspiring leader, to let everyone who worked for me and the people I worked for and the clients we had, the boards of directors of hospitals I addressed, know what our values were and know that we personified those values in the decisions that we made. So it wasn't just what we said, it was what we did. And right now I'm president of a domestic violence shelter. I'm on the board of a healthcare clinic in North Hollywood that treats everyone regardless of ability to pay. And I've also served on the Burbank Board of Library Trustees as chair. So all of those are about helping the helpless in our community. Everyone's emphasized listening. That's very, very important, but it also is just part of it. It means personifying values, the values of the community, and making sure that people see that you do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bessa. You know, listening to those responses, I wish that we had 8 spots on City Council that we could fill, but we're vying for 2. So thank you for those responses. Terry?
Thank you, Narissa. And I agree. And I've been taking notes along the way because I am a Burbank voter. So you guys are selling me and you're making it very difficult for me to make my decision. So thank you. So the next question is going to be around COVID recovery. And we're going to start with Michael Gogan. The question is, what is your COVID recovery plan for Burbank with regards to any of these 3 areas? The economy, operations, and public health. Mr. Gogan.
So you said economy, what are the other 2? I'm sorry.
The economy, operations, and public health.
Well, I'd like to start with public health.
Okay.
Because I think that we should respect each other's distance. And right now we've been asked to wear face masks. And I know that some people are pushing back because we've been doing this too long. I have a good feeling that we're not going to be having to do this much longer. Maybe I'm being too hopeful, but it would be nice if we just respect the time frame now. And whenever we go out, we have that face mask on. I think that's important. When it comes to operations, it's no different. You know, I noticed that some of the businesses have put up some plexiglass so that there's some distance between handling food or whatever and handing it over to the person receiving it, and then they pay for it. I think those are all good ideas, and I encourage that. But more importantly, we really should be opening up our businesses, because if we're not going to have any businesses open, then we are not going to have any income coming into the city as well. And if we don't have any income coming into the city, then we don't have money to pay for the services that are needed in our community. Makes perfectly good sense. And that is very important to the whole picture. It's funny that they say money makes the world go round, and it's sad that it has to lean on that one subject. Well, this is why I'm actually for a filming commission, because it would actually cut down the whole idea of going from one office to another office just to get the necessary permits to work in our city in a filming industry. And right now, we don't have that. After 50 years of being in the industry, Burbank needs a filming commission.
Thank you, Mr. Gogan. And the next is Tim Murphy. Mr. Murphy? Tim, you're on mute. Tim? Okay, we'll come back to Tim Murphy. Sharice Manukian, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please, actually.
Okay. So this is regarding COVID recovery for our city. What is your COVID recovery plan for Burbank with regards to any of these three areas? The economy, operations, and public health.
Thank you. I think the first thing that I really want to emphasize is that nothing is more important than public health and safety. You know, the economy, it can always be fixed, it can always be recovered, but we cannot recover an economy without any people. So the most important thing for me is to keep citizens safe. And I think that that comes with, you know, complying with social distancing rules when citizens are outside, wearing masks when citizens are outside, and, you know, making sure that the rest of the community is kind of complying with those guidelines as well. You know, stepping in as a community member and telling people, you know, maybe you should wear your mask if you're going to be outside if you see people not wearing masks. I think that that's something that everybody needs to work towards, because recovering from the pandemic is going to be a community effort. And, you know, kind of stepping away from that with regards to the economy, I think that, you know, it seems as though America slowly is going to be reopening their businesses. And I think the number one thing is, you know, creating a safe reopening plan that protects workers. We need to ensure that, you know, their public health and safety is also minded. You know, they need to be wearing masks. We need to provide protections for them to go back to work. I love what we've done with San Fernando by closing down the street and having businesses operate outside. I think that, you know, I would love to see something similar happen in the Magnolia Park area so that those businesses also have a chance to operate outside and thrive in the same way that the San Fernando businesses are. And I think looking at the long term, the number one thing that we need to do is really expand and grow our economic base here in Burbank. And the way that we do that is to create affordable housing so that the people that work in Burbank can also live in Burbank and then contribute to our economy. And of course, that's in the long term. In the short term, like I said, I think public health and safety is the most important thing, and creating a reopening plan that is safe and much like what we've been doing in San Fernando, where businesses are operating outside. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manukian. And the next person, Nick Schultz, please.
Well, I think we would all agree that we're facing an unprecedented economic and public health crisis, unlike anything we've seen before. Now, I believe you got to approach it with both, right? On the public health, I'll start with the economy first. In the course of this campaign, I've had a chance to talk to a lot of my neighbors, as I'm sure all my candidates have, and I can't tell you how many people are struggling right now who are out of a job and don't know when they're going to get back to work. Now, my plan has long been to create a Burbank-specific, Burbank-focused economic recovery task force. What that would look like is bringing our stakeholders and our experts right here in town to the table at City Hall to work with council and advise us on developing a comprehensive growth and recovery plan for our community. So we'd have representatives from the entertainment and production studios, small business, which is the backbone of Burbank's economy and our identity in many, many ways. Retailers, of course, but we'd also bring the working class to the table, such as people that work in our food and our beverage and our hospitality industry. And we'd be looking at two things principally. First, how do you reduce the cost, the burden, and the barriers to starting or maintaining a small business? And second, ensuring that jobs that are either homegrown or brought to Burbank pay a fair, livable wage, provide you access to quality and affordable health care, and maybe most importantly right now, provide you with PPE so you can do your job safely and go home to your family. On the issue of public health, I don't believe this is a crisis that will be ending soon. Even if a vaccine is developed, we don't know how effective it will be. We don't know if there'll be other strains of this thing. So we need to have better disaster preparation. We need to stockpile PPE. I do support what the council's done with reopening San Fernando so that we can have social distancing and mask wearing to allow business to get back to normal. And look, there's a lot that we need to do, but there's a reason that Burbank firefighters and SEIU, Local 121RN, the people that are working on the front lines at the hospital have chosen to stand with me because they know that my leadership approach is a comprehensive one.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Tamala Takahashi.
Great, thank you. Great question as well. I agree that public health is primary during this time. And one of the things I would like to mention is, and give credit to our city and our county, is how adaptive everybody's been during this time. And that we will continue to need to be adaptive as we move forward, because we don't know what we're going to be seeing. But some of the things that I think for public health that are important is that we continue to follow the county and state public health department guidelines, and that we keep providing information to everybody about this so that we know how to best be safe. And that information should be flowing continuously. Also, I think promoting and continuing to promote remote work is a way to continue with health and safety in our community, as well as continuing to ensure we have food and shelter and healthcare for everybody. And I also believe that the new certification program in LA County for businesses is an excellent program to make sure that we know which businesses are following the guidelines. And I encourage our small businesses to pursue that certification program. As for the economy and operations, I fully support our current Burbank City's economic recovery plan, where the city has gotten together with stakeholders and experts in order to create this plan for us to recover from COVID. It is a 7-point plan, and you can find the plan if you Google search Burbank City COVID recovery. And it's a 7-point plan that includes important things such as sharing, accessing, and informing information about recovery efforts and funding for residents, business owners, and employees, making sure everyone knows what's going on. Assisting the most vulnerable members and community with financial support through eviction orders, grants, and federal funding, which we've already done. Implementing the use of online tools for streamlined project review and permit processing. This is going to be extremely important as we move forward, and updating regulations and policies. So this plan is already in place, and I fully support it. And I think we need to lean in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Takahashi. Paul Herman.
Thanks, Jerry. So, one of the things we're talking about a lot now, obviously, is public health. And, I knew that the city of Burbank didn't have a public health department. We outsourced that to the county. I didn't realize how important it was to possibly have our own public health department. So one of the things I like to do if I'm elected to city council, when I'm elected to city council, is to ask the city to investigate and look into the possibility of creating our own public health department here within the city of Burbank. Pasadena has their own health department for their city, and they were able to be more adaptive, more quick, more nimble as far as shutting down and opening up in safe and healthy manner. But they're obligated to conform with the state guidelines, but they had a lot more maneuverability as it pertains to the county guidelines. And I think that's something we need to look at doing here in Burbank. Operationally, I'm assuming you're talking about the city budget and what we're going to do as far as that's concerned. City financiers are going to, unfortunately, I'm afraid, to be devastated. We're looking at a $25 to $50 million shortfall in our budget for this fiscal year due to COVID-19. There's we have tools in our toolkit available to us. We do have ample cash reserves. We do have a very low debt and a very good credit rating. So we can, if we do it right, we have the tools in our toolkit to basically manage our way through this economic crisis. As far as the economy, unfortunately for, businesses here in Burbank, the city can't, print money or, provide loans. But what we can do is we can advocate for those types of programs. We can try to get resources out to the existing resources and advocate for new resources to our small businesses here in the city of Burbank, and just be more adaptive. We need to cut the red tape and cut bureaucracy. We need to, like what we did with San Fernando Road, that's fantastic, but it shouldn't take 18 months, 2 years, 3 years to go through the city to get a license to open up a restaurant. We need to streamline that process immediately.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Constantine Anthony.
As far as the economy goes, I'm going to say one more thing that makes me unique of the other candidates. I'm the only person running on a platform of small business tax cuts. We passed Measure P back in 2018 to shore up our deficit for pension funding and other infrastructure payments. But sales tax measures always hurt small businesses the most. So what I would do is advocate in my first 100 days to return up to 80% of that sales tax credit back to our small businesses. And if Prop 15 passes, there's going to be a lot more property tax coming into the city. So I want to do property tax rebates to small businesses as well. We need to put money directly in the pockets of small businesses to keep them afloat. I'm also endorsed by the AFL-CIO, and one of the things I want to pass in my first 100 days is a right of recall for our employees. Typically during pandemics and crises like this, businesses fire their most seasoned workers, people who are at the highest rate of pay, and then they hire back a bunch of new employees at lower rates of pay. And I don't want that to happen. I want the people who got furloughed, the people who got fired to return back to their original rate of pay and have all their benefits intact. As far as operations go, I'm endorsed by AFSCME DC 36. That covers the employees union. The people who work here in the city for the city of Burbank have endorsed me because they know I'm going to take care of them when we move forward from this pandemic. I'm also endorsed by the Burbank Teachers Association because they know I'm going to help them out as well. We need to give PPE to every single employee fresh every day, and we need to provide full health care for all of our employees and take care of them during this crisis. As far as public health is concerned, I am also endorsed by SEIU 121RN. Those are the nurses at St. Joe's. And I'm endorsed by the National Union of Healthcare Workers. Those are our nursing home nurses. So they know I'm going to take care of our seniors. I'm going to take care of our immunocompromised. And we need to move forward with mortgage forbearance for all the property owners that can't pay their mortgage and utilize that to cancel the rents on people who haven't been able to pay their rent.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Linda Basson?
Great, thank you. In regard to public health, that's not something the city of Burbank would have direct control over. There's so many factors that we just don't know when they're going to come into play and how they will affect us. So we need to monitor that carefully. As was said, public health is priority number one. But I think as a city, I would echo several of the things that Mr. Herman said. I think part of the problem we had back in March was that the city was not sure what to do and when to do it. And I think we need to be more decisive and more autonomous so that we are giving clear, direct information, advice, rules, laws, ordinances to Burbank residents to prevent a lot of confusion. And I think that confusion has escalated and created the situation to be much more difficult than it needed to be. In terms of the economy, there was federal money, and I'm not sure how much of it reached Burbank. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be more federal money. So we need to do a much better job of tracking it, the PPP, all these other programs, to make sure it gets gets directed to Burbank small and local businesses, to make sure it benefits people here in Burbank who are in need, who are affected by this economic crisis. I know that Burbank has distributed funds, but I have a feeling there's a lot of funds out there that we missed out on, and we need to be much more creative and diligent about getting those funds into Burbank. Operations, I've kind of talked about that a bit. I think that we need to be much more focused. My understanding is we did not have a pandemic plan in place in the city when this pandemic hit, even though we knew it was coming back in January. So that's something else that definitely needs work, that we can learn from this experience and plan for the future, because we don't know when this is going to end. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Besson. Now we are going to move into the lightning round questions. You'll have two candidates will answer the same question, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond. And we're going to start.
Terry.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Tim, are you back?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about
I
that.
neglected to say earlier that I'm having computer issues and my picture isn't up there, but if everyone would just imagine a young George Clooney, that would be great.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Tim. I was thinking exactly that, Tim.
Thank you. It's tired of all the Zooms.
Okay,
So,
sorry about that. Go ahead, Tim.
No problem. Thank you again. Pretty much everything has been covered. I mean, Burbank, as soon as possible, declared an emergency. At that point, the city manager became in charge. Why? Because that's what the charter says. Why? Because the city manager can act a lot quicker. So because of the Brown Act, council's got to post an agenda 24 hours in advance. It's got to get together and have a meeting. There's got to be public discussion. So we don't have our own public health officer. I've already agendized that and asked to take a look at that in the near future. But without that, we're under the auspices of the County of Los Angeles health officer and also the state health officer. We have been blessed by having a disaster coordinator. He's a captain in the fire department. If you haven't met him or talked to him, you should do so. He's amazing. Eric Baumgartner. He is a font of information. He works with all the health officers around the area and in the state. We have done a fantastic job in terms of responding to each and every issue. As far as public health, the number one issue is to take care of our residents and our workers, so that they're healthy. We're doing a good job of that. We don't have anywhere near the cases that other cities have of similar size. As far as the recovery, we have been successful in lobbying the county and even the state in terms of trying to reopen businesses that are ready, that understand the cleaning protocols, that understand what they have to do. Just about everything you want to know is on our webpage, our COVID webpage. We've got a recovery plan that's going to be run by the Community Development Department. They're going to be phase 2 of that will be on Tuesday night. For those that are interested, you can hear more of what our
We're losing you, Tim. Well, thank you, Mr. Murphy. Sorry about the audio. So now we're going to move into the lightning round questions. 2 candidates will answer the same question, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond. We're going to start with Mike Gogan. The question is, the replacement passenger terminal at the Hollywood Burbank Airport has met all the necessary legal approvals. What's your opinion as the City of Los Angeles asks its residents to weigh in before construction can begin? Mr. Gogan?
Thank you for that question. I was imagining if it would be actually awesome if we could have some kind of a monorail system and let the parking be somewhere else and bring in people to the airport, and would create less congestion. And that would be kind of awesome. And maybe that's a dream or pie in the sky, but I think it could be completely paid for outside of the city budget. I believe that corporations could come in like Disneyland does. And we have Disney Corporation here, and they have experience on setting up the monorail system. And I think it would be awesome. So that's my one interjection here about the airport. I know there's only going to be 12 terminals rebuilt. I think that's the number, and I'm all for it. If it's going to bring up the new level of being current in today's airports the way they should be.
Thank you, Mr. Gogan. Linda Besson, the same question. And
Would
if you'd
you
like me,
repeat
I was going to say, if you'd like me, okay, thank you. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
The replacement passenger terminal at the Hollywood Burbank Airport has met all the necessary legal approvals. What's your opinion as the City of Los Angeles has asked its residents to weigh in before construction can begin?
So you're asking me about the City of Los Angeles asking its residents to weigh in?
On the Burbank Airport. Yes.
On the Burbank Airport. Well, that's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. So I'm not sure what that has in terms of its effect on our plans. I agree that the airport should be the most modern it can be. There are some amazing new airports around the world that we should look at in terms of how they are designed and what they do for passengers. But I'm not quite sure why the City of Los Angeles is polling its residents. I think that it could be because they are frequent users of our airport. But in that case, we should ask all passengers. We shouldn't just ask the city residents of Los Angeles. And I'm also hoping that the residents of Burbank are being asked in the same way, because this is our airport. For example, I moved to Burbank. One of the reasons was because I traveled on business monthly or more frequently through the airport. So I'm hoping that that input would be gotten from many, many more people than just the City of Los Angeles.
Thank you, Ms. Basson.
All right, next lightning round question. Again, candidates, you have 1 minute to answer this question. Charisse Manukian, the City of Burbank has committed to build 12,000 additional residential units over the next 15 years. How do you think it ought to be achieved?
I think that the number one thing that you want to think about when you're developing housing and new housing units is the affordability of those units. As we talked about earlier, there's a huge housing crisis, not only with the homeless, but with renters as well. Rent is increasingly high in the city, and it's, hard for people to work and live here. So I think that what I would want to see in, building those units would be to allocate more units to lower income families and lower income people. And I think that that would kind of be a good step towards creating more affordable housing. I know that the city allocates, a certain number of units. I would like to see all the units in a development dedicated to lower income individuals. I think that that would be a good step. The second thing, with regards to just development would be looking at where exactly these developments are taking place. I would like to see them, be near city centers, be near public transportation, because again, it's about the residents and, putting them in a convenient place. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Manukian. Same question for Tamala Takahashi. Ms. Takahashi, the city of Burbank is committed to build 12,000 additional residential units over the next 15 years. How do you think it ought to be achieved?
Thank you for the question, a very important one again. I believe in order to achieve our very lofty goal of 12,000 units, and a good one, is a hybrid approach. So part of the approach would be the traditional high density developments, preferably mixed use developments with business on the bottom and residential on the top, to create hopefully a more 20-minute city program on the transportation corridors. And then with that, to also have gentle density in the city. So gentle density is spread out development around the city in small portions. So like ADUs, small scale conversions from single to double units, small scale mixed use buildings around the city, so that it's not all in one place. If we divide that up in a separate, in a hybrid approach, then we won't create too much density in one place, and we'll be able to also meet our needs. But also, if we do the gentle density, we're out of a minute, sorry.
Thank you for your response, Terry.
All right, thank you. Okay, again, 1 minute to respond. The next question, I'll start with Nick Schultz. The question is, with traffic and environmental issues in mind, do you believe in alternative transportation and a need to reduce dependence on cars? Why or why not?
Absolutely. Look, the climate crisis is here, and the time to act is really yesterday, but we have to start somewhere, and I guess today's as good as any. I think there are really tangible steps that we can take. Expanded use of bus systems, bringing the metro rail to Burbank to connect us with the rest of the San Fernando Valley and Los Angeles are things I support. I look forward to the future of high-speed rail coming into Southern California and Burbank being a hub for that. In particular, I look forward to seamless transition with Burbank Airport. I think that would encourage a lot of people, as another candidate mentioned, to commute to the airport without the use of a car. I also think we need further investments in electric vehicle charging stations. And we can't overlook the fact that we need to continue to develop walkable and bikeable options too, so that people can traverse our community in secured walking and bike paths rather than having to take a car anywhere. And I'm so incredibly honored to have the endorsement of the Sierra Club and the League of Conservation Voters, because they know my position on this and they know I'll fight for that future.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Paul Herman, I'm going to repeat the question again, okay?
Thanks, Terry.
With traffic and environmental issues, in mind, do you believe in alternative transportation and a need to reduce dependence on cars? Why or why not?
I do, and at Burbank Water and Power, we talk about this all the time. We talk about sustainability. We talk about sustainability in our electric system and electrification of our system, right? So transportation is responsible, the transportation industry is responsible for over 50% of all greenhouse gas emissions in LA County and Southern California. And, one thing we can do to address that is to electrify our system. That means electric cars, electric buses, electric fleets, electric trucks. Like one of the things they're doing the Avion project right now, they're building near the airport, is installing truck chargers for electric trucks at every loading dock at that facility. So, I do believe that I don't know if we're going to be able to get off our reliance on cars and automobiles, but I do believe that we can lower our carbon footprint and lower emissions by electrifying our transportation system.
Thank you, Mr. Herman.
All right, last lightning round question goes to, first off, Constantine Anthony. Mr. Anthony, what kind of marketing plan would you support to encourage residents and businesses to move to Burbank? 1 minute.
On my policy agenda, I have a great idea that I've been working on for a few years. It's called the Media Jobs Fair. And for me, when I look at what Burbank is as the media capital of the world, the people who are moving here that are already decided to move here are folks who want to work in media, animation, the tech industry. If we can create an annual jobs fair to bring the people who already live in the city to the employers that have these great jobs, and in addition, market that to the surrounding neighborhood or even further outside of even California, people who want to invest and get themselves over here, drive and fly and move to Burbank. The focus should be around media. We have a great healthcare industry. We've got a great tech industry. But what drives people to Burbank, what brings them here, it's movies and TV. I'm a SAG union actor, and I've been in the industry for 10 years. I think I have a great opportunity to lead that charge.
All right, thank you, Mr. Anthony. Tim Murphy, what kind of marketing plan would you support to encourage residents and businesses to move to Burbank?
I would say a lot more of what we're already doing. People move to Burbank not because of the media industry. People move to Burbank for services in the schools. People love Burbank when they're here. A lot of times when people are working here, they find out more about the city, and they want to move here because of the open government, the chance that you can be on a board or a commission, that you can have an impact on your local government, that you're a half hour from anywhere. It's a great location. The people are terrific. You just go up to any person on the street and say, what do you like about Burbank? And you're going to be there for at least a half hour. That's who we are. Burbank, wonderful place to live. Look at these people tonight of Burbank. They want to volunteer and work for peanuts to be your leaders on the city council. That's because of where we live. We love it here. And I'm not sure we have to do any marketing at all. We could use some more great jobs. Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Terry.
Okay, so the last question for the evening, and you're going to have 1 minute to respond. So we're going to start with Linda Basson. We know each of you has a personal connection to the city and appreciate all it has to offer. Tell us about opportunities to make it an even better Burbank. Ms. Basson?
That topic is my passion. First of all, diversity. We need to do more to promote diversity of Burbank because we are a multi-layered city, racially, economically, socially, all different levels, but you would not see it based on the activities we have in our city. We need activities and programs. Tonight, unfortunately, because we're here, we cannot go to something that the Burbank Library is putting on about understanding racism. That's huge and it's wonderful and I'm so happy it's happening, but we need much, much more. The other part is accessibility to city council. There are so many people that cannot come on a Tuesday night and talk during public comment. We need to get city council out into the community, at events, at places where people congregate, so people can talk to them for more than 3 minutes and really have a full discussion about what's going on in the city and feel like they are being heard. So those are just two of many topics I could talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Besson. And Constantine Anthony? And if you'd like me to repeat the question again, please let me know.
I was just going to say that. Can you repeat the question?
Okay, will do. We know each of you has a personal connection to the city and appreciate all it has to offer. Tell us about opportunities to make it even better Burbank.
Yes, I mean, I love the city and it has great opportunities. But for me, I think the biggest issue facing our city right now is economic inequality. It drives all of the problems that we have, housing and homelessness, the fact that people can't get good paying jobs here in the city in which they live and they have to go somewhere else to get good pay. And then the folks who can't afford the jobs here, they have to rent somewhere else because the housing is too expensive. So for me, it's about, raising the minimum wage. It's about getting a parcel tax through the city that benefits the school district, and creating an economically sound and economically safe city. These are historical problems. I mean, we have refused to get, Black and brown people their own mortgages 50 years ago. It was a red line district. So we need to find the economic inequalities through the city, and we need to tackle them and really raise people up and balance everything. So we need to resolve that.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Tamla Takahashi.
I love our city of Burbank, and I agree that the reason why we came here was for the quality of life. My husband was offered a job here, and we could have lived here or Santa Clarita. And we looked at the two communities and we decided for Burbank. So I agree, we live here for that reason. To make it better, some great ideas. Okay, we have a VIA program. It's called VIA, and it's a program to a rideshare program in Burbank that's free, that nobody knows about. I like to see that being advertised, and I'd like to see that being permanent after COVID, to have this free rideshare to do infill for our public transportation. I would also love to see a cultural center developed, maybe at the Overham Center, turning it into a cultural center. I would also love to see a business portal available for all of our small businesses. Right now, we have inconsistent messaging from our city to small businesses, and I would love to see that more consistent with the business portal. And lastly, is the Complete Streets program for transportation for all. I love the Complete Streets program, and we need to lean in on that program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Takahashi. Michael Gogan.
You want to repeat that question again, please?
Sure. We know each of you has a personal connection to the city and appreciate all it has to offer. Tell us about opportunities to make it an even better Burbank.
Well, I'm happy you asked that question again. The very first thing I thought about when I first started working here was, it would be much easier if we had a filming commission. So I didn't have one then 35 years ago, but it'd be nice now, where it would be great to have that streamlining of job opportunities in the film industry right at one point instead of several offices. I'm also moved into this area because of how much protection it was, more safety. And I'm a person with disabilities, and I'm out to protect persons with disabilities and more. I'm not for defunding the police department. They are watching over us very carefully, and our tax dollars are being spent wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gogan. Paul Herman.
Thanks, Terry. So one thing I'm very passionate about is the Boys and Girls Club here in Burbank. I've been board chair for the past 3 years. One thing we can do, and that I'm currently working on with the Boys and Girls Club to create a better Burbank, is a board diversity initiative. During the Black Lives Matter movement back in June, we really took a look introspectively at our organization and realized that our board doesn't necessarily reflect our membership. So we made the determination that we need to have a board diversity initiative for our club. We understood the why. Now we're trying to figure out the how. How do we make that happen? So we're currently doing that. We had our first a diversity retreat a few weeks ago, and we're currently undertaking that process. The other thing I like to say is funding for our schools. I do agree our school needs a parcel tax. And being involved with the chamber, I've advocated for the business community to be involved in that conversation so we can build a broader coalition to get a parcel tax approved. I worked last summer to create a compromise that unfortunately our district didn't approve, but that's one thing personally that I'm attached to.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Nick Schultz.
Thank you for having me tonight. I love Burbank, and I'm running because I envision a Burbank where our firefighters, our teachers, our police officers can actually afford to live here too, in the community that they serve. And I think that we can do that by adding more affordable housing options, as I've talked about tonight. I believe that Burbank can lead regionally, if not around the entire state, when it comes to climate recovery. And we can do that by putting Burbank Water and Power on track to 100% renewable energy and hiring a sustainability coordinator. Those are things we can do. I believe that we can have incredible mass transit options right here in town that improve the quality of life. I am honored and humbled to be in this race and to be endorsed by so many people that share my values, whether it's the LA County Federation of Labor, Burbank Firefighters, the Burbank Democratic Club, the LA County Democratic Party, and our Assembly member, Laura Friedman. I'm running because I care about the future of where I call home, where Allie and I are going to raise our kids. And I think that together we can put Burbank on the path to being even better than it's ever been. Please visit nickforburbank.com.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Sharice Manukian.
Thank you. I'm a lifelong Burbank resident, and I'm so lucky that, you know, this is where my parents decided to settle down and call home. I've been here my whole life, and I just love everything about it. And I think that throughout the course of this campaign, I realized that not every resident here was afforded the same privileges that I was. And that's a lot due to, you know, income inequality and inequality of opportunity a lot throughout the city. And I think that that's the main reason why I'm running, because I want to change those things, you know, beginning with creating affordable housing options for the people that live here. I want people to be able to work and live here. The next thing, you know, would be creating funds for our schools. I would be in favor of another parcel tax. I would be in favor of looking into ways that we can monetize our school campuses to raise funds, because, you know, those students are the future of our city and we need to invest in them. And finally, I think sustainability is the next thing that I would want us to, you know, work on within the next 10 years so that we can create a greener city for us and for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manukian. And last but not least, Tim Murphy.
Thank you.
Or AKA George Clooney. I'm sorry, I keep mixing.
That's right. That's right. I wish. You know, I think the most important thing is for people to get involved, to volunteer, to you know, join a commission, join a service club. We have all these fantastic service clubs that meet anytime you want, morning, noon, night, weekends. And they're doing great things. They're working with children. They're working to solve problems. You've got a lot of nonprofits that could use some more hands. They could use some more money. FSA, Family Promise, you know, they're doing fantastic work. Get involved. People want to worry about diversity. People want to worry about hate. Join Burbank Human Relations Council. $10 to join. They fight hate every day. They help victims of hate crimes. They meet, they mediate, and they're going to help the city with our diversity problem. And just get involved. There's lots to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. And thank you everyone else for your feedback and your comments. Albert?
And with that last question, this ends our forum. I'd like to thank a few different groups. First, we'd like to take this time to thank all 8 city council candidates for joining us tonight and for sharing your vision for creating an even better Burbank. Next, I'd like to thank our viewers for joining us tonight. We're so thankful to all of you for getting involved and educating yourself on the ideas and the beliefs of all these city council candidates. We hope you have found this to be of great value and that you feel prepared when you're filling out your ballot this month. Then I'd like to thank our co-moderators, Terry Walker and Narissa Sugars, and of course, our timekeeper, Jamie Keyser Thomas, all who have done a phenomenal job in keeping this forum moving rather smoothly. And finally, thanks to our Leadership Burbank Board of Directors who helped put this event together. This forum certainly took a village and your contributions are greatly appreciated. We ask everyone to consider liking the Leadership Burbank page on Facebook, Instagram, and visit our leadershipburbank.com website for more information about events and activities that our organization hosts throughout the year. Right after we sign off, we'll be posting the various mail ballot drop box locations on our Facebook page, so please be on the lookout for that. And on behalf of the entire Leadership Burbank Board of Directors, we thank you all for joining us. Stay safe, healthy, and have a great evening, Burbank. Bye-bye.
Thank you.